Good morning YouTube. I'm here on the top of a hill in Cornwall. It's a little bit windy, so I'm hoping there's not too much wind noise, but it's a hill that's quite near where I live and it's quite high by Cornish standards. It's not steep, so it's easy to climb, but it does give you a great set of views. It's near this television mast here, and on a good day you can see both coasts of Cornwall from here. Look in that direction. You won't be able to see it because the mist hasn't cleared yet, it's still quite early in the morning, but I'm pointing you now in the direction of Falmouth. A few miles that way you'll be able to see the ocean. If I swing it around over here, you're looking to Gwithian, Portreath, that coast. So you can see both, as I see both coasts from here on a nice day. It's fantastic being up here actually, I really like it. I like living near a hill, and in fact there's so much interesting countryside around here. And one of the things I like being about up here, of course, is the fact that it gives you a good view, you know, obviously. It's a good view. But that sense of having a good view, of being high up, of having some perspective, of having some oversight. I mean, this to me is one of the key experiences, fully embodied experiences that we have, that help to organise our thoughts. You know, because our thoughts and our ways of thinking are to a large extent mapped from our physical being in the world and the way that our senses engage with the world. And this is one of them. My senses are engaging with the world in this way, which is providing a template for what I'm capable of thinking about and how I'm capable of thinking. And this one, that's height, the one of being up a height and that giving you an overview, as I say, is really seminal. And you find that idea in a lot of, just a lot of phrases and the logic of certain kinds of ways of thinking. So when Isaac Newton says that, you know, if I have seen further than other men, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. If he says that, it's this kind of experience he's alluding to. And when he says I can see further, he means I can know more. Yeah, if I know more than other people, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. There's this kind of metaphor of seeing and knowing that he's playing with there, which is very common. And so being up high gives you greater access to knowledge. You have oversight. You can see things that people on the ground can't see. And it's literally true in this example, you know, literally true. I can see things I can't possibly see from down there. I can know more. I can solve problems up here actually that I can't solve down there. You know, I can see over the walls. I can get a general view of the lay of the land. You know, I can see the patterns in the landscape that aren't available to me if I'm lower down. I can see relationships between one place and another that again I would not be able to see if I was just down there experiencing it. If you use Google Earth or something like it, you'll know that it's possible to see earth workings, archaeological earth workings, that kind of thing, or the shapes of things, the shapes of buildings and the shapes of structures that only really become visible as shapes when you see them from above. So again, it's that sense of you've got access to a greater vista, a greater scope of knowledge if you're high, or if you adopt this kind of position. That's the key metaphor. I sometimes think of it like a maze, actually. You know, if I was in the middle of a maze here, or if that was a maze down there that I live in, I sometimes do feel like if I was living in a maze, you know, the only way I could find my way out would be to, well, just trial and error really. But if I'm up here, I'd be able to have an overview of the maze. I could see the ways in, the ways out. I could see where the dead ends were. If it was the kind of maze that had a treasure in the centre of it, I'd be able to see the treasure and find the route there. You know, there'd be a clarity to my knowledge, a clarity to my vision that would come from my capacity to be above it all and to look over the top. Again, there's a height metaphor there, isn't there? But of course, I don't live on the top of a hill. I live in the maze like everybody else. But one of the things that I think about in terms of that, and this is probably just a reflection of my obsession, so you may want to turn off now, is to do with language and thought and understanding. Because, you know, quite a lot of the time I watch videos that I have a lot of trouble understanding. Philosophy videos, science videos, politics videos, videos made by people that I have very little contact with, on YouTube I'm talking about. And And sometimes I feel like I'm just being thrown into the briar patch, this briar patch, sorry to switch metaphors, or I'm being just like cast into a maze, and I just don't understand what, it's like I'm fumbling around this labyrinth of words and sentences, and I don't really know how to make any sense of it. And sometimes, if I'm honest, I sometimes get very frustrated by that and project that frustration onto the person making the video. I just think you're doing this on purpose. You're just deliberately casting putting obstacles in the way of my understanding. You're deliberately making this obscure and shut it off, and you're deliberately, making this hard to understand, hard to get to. And I want to get to the treasure of what you know, but I can't get to it because you've made built this maze around it. Why don't you just build a straight line? I feel like saying, just give it to me straight. Just be direct. Those kind of things rather than the maze thing. I feel that. But I'm also aware that when people listen to my videos, probably you now listen to this one, you probably think I'm doing the same. Even though I feel, and I truly do feel this, I feel that what I'm saying is completely clear. I feel like I'm being direct. Which is weird, isn't it? So what's the answer? Is one of us being direct and one of us not? I don't think that works. Because I know from my experience of the kinds of things that I've learnt about over the last 10 years, more 15 years, that the kind of ideas that I'm very familiar with now appeared really maze-like when I first came across them. So I know what happens when you learn something, and I suppose because I work in education, that's part of it. When you learn something, what appears at first to be an obfuscating maze just kind of becomes, with familiarity, becomes clear and direct. And the obfuscation disappears, the shutters go down. You gain a map, I guess. You get a map of how to get to the treasure really easily. And you forget how confusing it was when you first came across it. And I think the same is true with all of our language, actually. I don't think there is a direct language. Unless you're talking about really, really, really simple things. Even then I'm not absolutely sure. But we forget. We forget how complex the things we say are, even when they feel simple, even when they feel obvious. Obvious is a fantastic word, I think. Obvious, because one of the tasks of science and philosophy isn't to explain the complicated; it's to explain the obvious, isn't it? And it's the obvious things, the transparent things, the things which appear to need no explanation, which are often the most difficult to understand. Difficult to understand because we've forgotten how maze-like our experience is, forgotten how maze-like our language is, how labyrinthine our understanding actually is. So we just use words like the ones I've been using in these sentences, like direct, like clear, like simple, like obscure. We use these words as if they were just words, just simple, tokens in an uncomplicated exchange. But they're not. They're part of the fabric of this maze that we all walk around in, all trying to understand one another, it seems to me. There isn't a place like this outside of these mazes to stand where we can get an overview of one another's language and one another's thought and see the logos, the treasure that lies at the middle of all language and all thought, and that's the right one. We can say we do. We can say, because it feels like that for all of us. We can say what we think is true and what we think is right, but that don't make it so, do it? I do wish the sun was up a little bit higher than the mist to be burnt off, and you will be able to see clearly now to both coasts of Cornwall. The dark clouds that had me blind. It's going to be a bright, 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 bright sunshiny day, showers later.